Prologue. Launched on a shoestring, the colonists were humanity's only hope for survival. They were failing in the Aloha star system. The Thrive crew turned that around. But there are 6 other colonized systems. Sass Collier takes Thrive to visit Sanctuary, the secret bastion star system of the Colony Corps. It's an 11-year trip one way. Chapter 1.
The original Colony Corps constructed and crewed the vast refugee ships of the final exodus from Earth, bearing as many as 250,000 souls per transport. These crews deposited their charges at their destination star systems, tarried a few years to help out, then departed. Quasar Shibuya, the early diaspora.
Goodbye, Captain Sassafras Collier said, her face frozen in a smile. Her partner and first mate, Clay Rocha, caressed her shoulder and reached to click off the recording. Rather than allow time for second thoughts and video editing, he hit send before she could stop him. This was their final farewell to their old shipmates before they vanished from the Aloha star system for 2 decades. No further communications would be possible. Thrive's current crew, including Clay, had sent their intimate goodbyes to family. But Sass's crews were her only surviving family. She saved her closing video for last. 40 minutes from now, they'd receive the data burst on Mahina. The moon lay 700 million kilometers beneath them on the planetary ecliptic. Pono, the gas giant Mahina orbited, also hurtled away from their last meeting. By the time her friends could reply, Sass would be gone. She released her aching smile and sat back thoughtfully in her chair on the bridge. Why am I not crying?
Because the real goodbye was 18 months ago.
Clay reasoned. Back then they hugged and kissed these people in person and cried a river.
By now, my honest wish is to get on with it.
True, she agreed, though she did regret not feeling more regret. Even after a few years, the revelation of her wetware computer nature still generated self-doubt at the damnedest times. Would I be bawling now if I were a real person? Clay was no help. The gorgeous man, matching her at an apparent age of 20, was actually 109, 5 years her senior. His facsimile personality ran on the same nanite operating system as hers did, ever since their originals died within minutes of each other back on Earth, 70 years ago subjective. Or 78 years objective, adding back the 8 years they skipped in the blink of an eye on the way to Aloha. Here she was, about to skip forward another 8 years relative to her friends. This warp technology was cruel. She hailed her engineer, Darren Markley, once mentor to her old cruise Copeland.
Good to go, Chief. I'll be with you shortly.
She and Clay clambered out of their seats into the cramped rear of the bridge, and Clay folded her into his arms for a hug. She clutched him hard and fierce, then let go with a sharp nod. You're right. Let's get on with it. Clay at her heels, she headed for the galley, where the crew awaited. Despite 18 months together now, she didn't know them well. Most were spending the trip in cold sleep. Given the utter tedium of 3 years' transit planet to planet, subjective, in a modest asteroid hopper built to sleep 15, they weren't missing much. A few even asked to skip this momentous turning point, to be roused only if and when their skills were needed. Sass didn't like them the way she loved her original crew. She selected those friends one by one and treasured them closer than brothers and sisters, their years of shared experience rich in trauma and triumph. Clay recruited the new candidates, mostly older, seasoned, pragmatic types for her to choose between. Boring. She smiled confidently and waved. Then she placed views from external cameras onto the big display above the dining table. One of them included the Aloha star, blue-white and noticeably dimmer than the view from home, but still clearly their sun, and not a distant star. I'll join Mr. Markley in the hold. One of these displays should show Sanctuary's star real soon now. The crew cheered. She touched Clay's hand and left them to him. Outside the galley, she swung under the railing and hopped down from the catwalk. She automatically flicked her personal gravity for a gentle landing 5 meters below. Their express slide stayed behind on Mahina with Jules, along with the gaudy mushroom-shaped produce stand. Copeland's son was old enough to play with them now. The tidy hold felt a bit barren without their bulk.
We're ready when you are.
She joined the engineer at the warp drive. The device stood on a tool bench, looking like a toaster oven. Its power cables were intimidating, plus its hard data line to the ship's computer. Navigation and the engines already contributed for 18 months to position Thrive for this next trick. The warp box didn't use them. As Sass understood it, which is to say, not at all, the warp drive turned on and suddenly translated them to an analogous location relative to Sanctuary. Then they'd unplug the device and stow it in a closet until it was needed again. According to the tentative plan, that would be 4 years from now, allowing for 3 more years of travel, inbound and outbound, plus 1 year at their destination. They'd jump right back here, relative to Mahina. Warp travel had nothing to do with the ship's propulsion, except that it would devour their maximum star drive output, plus drain their capacitors. Sass trusted their time without power would be brief. Darren didn't seem concerned. Perhaps that point was worth checking. Engineers could be a bit tunnel-visioned. How long will this drain our power? Darren, a mild and plain brown-haired geek, looked up from his wiggle scope, grinning like a kid in a candy store.
Instantaneous!
He reminded her of Clark Kent, Superman in his 1950s mild-mannered guise, complete with button-down khaki Oxford shirt with pocket protector, dark gray slacks, short, tidy hair, and black plastic-rimmed glasses. Darren's superpower was to maintain a crappy 8-decade-old asteroid hopper masquerading as a starship, with spit and baling wire. Or in this case, printer steel and ingenuity. Losing his glasses and morphing into tights would be his kryptonite, from technical genius to simply silly. I'll rephrase, Sass said. After this thing wipes our capacitors, how long till the lights come back on?
I rigged a backup battery. The emergency lights should stay on.
No longer interested in this pedestrian diversion, he tested the wiggling waveform emitted by another power conduit. He shook his head in awe.
I've never played with this much power.
In misgiving, Sass asked, "You used to do power plants, right?"
Yes. Oh, nothing like this, though.
Darren, this little box hasn't been used in 25 years? Then it spent a couple decades in an overpressured argon atmosphere on the Denali seabed. It's not going to, short out or something, is it? Sass's understanding of electricity was sketchy. Unlike him, though, she grew up with lightning, and the ship surrounding her was metal.
That's what this is for.
Darren replied in glee.
Could you help lift it? Wait.
He quickly tested 2 more leads, to his vast satisfaction. Then she helped him lift a box into place over the warp drive.
Sorry about the weight. Lead-lined steel.
Sass tipped the box this way and that as Darren lovingly snugged his cables into their guide slots, then sealed them with foil and duct tape. Isn't the on switch trapped inside? Darren tapped a little box like an archaic computer mouse. Its tail was bound to the data feed line to run into the cage. He stood back at last with a slow smile. He met her eye.
Tell me you aren't excited.
Terrified, she assured him. There was no way to test this damn thing in advance. Oh, there was a self-test button. But the only way to really activate it was, step 1, travel 1.5 years north from the system ecliptic. Step 2, feed it as much power as she used to escape Denali's gravity well. Step 3, turn it on. No, step 3 was to pray, or worry and annoy the engineer with final misgivings as she did now, sort of like a captain's prayer. His finger hovered over the button, his eyebrows lifted. Engage, Sass agreed. He pressed the button, and nothing happened. That was smooth, she acknowledged uneasily. Darren studied his tablet.
Computer, activate warp drive.
Signal sent?
The computer agreed. Darren pursed his lips.
It didn't engage.
Sass stepped over to the bigger screen at the engineering console instead of using her small pocket tablet. No power consumption.
I saw that.
Darren noted calmly. Doubtless, the chief engineer was way ahead of her. Unlike most of the crew, Sass knew Darren well. Dot Vrooman, his wife, popped into cryo every other week. The nurse practitioner was exploring how to improve on the cryo drugs and experimented on herself. But Darren was happy as a clam staying awake for 3 years to keep Sass and Clay company. He seized the precious bounty of free time to study nanite engineering. The Markleys were both 72, creche-mate childhood sweethearts. Apparent age arrested at 25 by nanites. This was standard in the urban city of Mahina Actual. The new Yengying advanced nanites were only beginning to make this blessing available to the masses back home.
There isn't supposed to be an extra box.
Darren suggested warily, considering his shielding. Sass helped him remove the cage and test each connection again. Nothing loose. Darren opened the toaster oven-style door and peered within. Sass soothed herself that this was perfectly reasonable. A corner of her mind dwelt on how humiliating it would be to fail at this juncture. Just turn around and go home, having wasted 3 long years with nothing to show for it. Make that 4 or 5 long years. By the time they could reverse their velocity and reach it, Pono would be on the far side of the sun. Darren closed the device again. He pushed his glasses up the bridge of his nose, lost in thought. He then attached his meter to a cable with alligator clips and handed it to her to hold. He held up a weight finger as he visited an engineering cabinet. He returned with a second meter and clipped it to the opposite power cable.
What we're looking for is any power drop between your meter and mine when we turn this on.
He drew next to her to hold the scopes together. Then he threw the switch. With a blinding arc of blue-white light and a sinus-searing whiff of ozone, Sass was instantly electrocuted. She flew backward a meter across the hold, the device dropping from her hand.